Hello YouTube, Reseller Mom here. Welcome to today's video. I am so excited about this one because it's 2021 and by golly, if we don't count the last couple days of riots, I have high hopes for 2021 that it's got to be better than the year 2020. So I've been working for several days now on putting together this slideshow for you guys and going through my 2021, calculating my Amazon FBA monetary goals, and kind of all the pieces to the puzzles that I look at when looking at that goal. Now, I am by no means a millionaire or considers myself a guru or an expert, but I have done a lot of research and I've been selling on Amazon since the spring of 2015. And I've done a lot of learning for sure, and I want to show you how I go about my numbers and such to calculate those goals for FBA to see exactly what you should expect as a paycheck, how much profits to calculate, and all of the ins and outs from doing those calculations. So, thank you for joining me today. If at any point you like this video or whatnot, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment down below if you want any further information on things like that. I am going to try and link everything that I reference down below in the description. I am going to reference some other people's ways of how they calculate things and show you my way of calculating things as well. So this is a pretty intense video. I'm letting you know right now it's going to be a long one and very wordy, and there's reasons for that. It's not calculating your Amazon goals. Yes, it's cut and dry, but there's also a ton of factors that go into it, especially when you're outsourcing and you're looking at things like ROI and rank and how much inventory do you need to sell the amount of items that you want, things like that. So yes, this is a long video, but I wanted to give you guys kind of the whole picture and not just a cookie cutter type of explanation. When I was doing research for this video this week, I find a lot of blogs out there that give you kind of a sugarcoating of what to expect with Amazon FBA, and this is more of a meat and potatoes type of video. So we're going to dig in here, and this is going to be several courses long if we were referencing a food dinner type here, but I will try to make it as easy as I can with my slides here. The first slide I have up here is about knowing your numbers, and I wanted to give a brief overview of the numbers and reports that I frequently pull, because knowing your numbers is kind of it's a very broad term that I hear a lot of times, but for Amazon FBA, I think it's really important to know what numbers you need to know. There's a lot of numbers with Amazon. There's a lot of data out there. Because a lot of it is all integrated with software, there's a lot of things that offer reports, and you can get bogged down really quick. So this is an overview of the numbers that I look at and what I go over. The first one on here, and this is in order of what I think you should be building into your business. First would be QuickBooks, second would be Inventory Lab, and third would be some sort of repricer. So if you're just starting Amazon, these are very good software types of setups that you need to integrate into your business. You need to have an accounting software. Inventory Lab will manage all your inventory, and a repricer is going to help you get your items sold. I would also add, in terms of software, Keepa. Keepa is another great one to have if you are just starting out and you need to make buying decisions. But let's talk about these one by one. QuickBooks is what I use for accounting. I've been using QuickBooks since I started, well, I did about 3 months of Excel sheets, and it became really apparent that I had no idea what I was doing, and Excel sheets weren't going to work for me. So QuickBooks allows me to link my bank accounts. It allows it to track every single transaction under my business banking. It gives great reports for profit and loss, and where your money is, things like that. And I now have upgraded myself this year and got a CPA on board to really help me understand those accounting numbers and where my business is going. And her information is down below too if you are interested in getting a CPA that is very familiar with e-commerce and kind of specialized in that. The last accountants that I had pretty much just did my year-end taxes, but QuickBooks gives you all of that information tidied up for your CPA so that they can put in all of the numbers and whatnot for tax season. So QuickBooks, very important. You don't have to do QuickBooks. There is other softwares out there like GoDaddy that will do similar things. See what's right for you out there, but definitely have something to help you with accounting. The next software that I love and use a lot is Inventory Lab. Inventory Lab will manage all of your inventory, and that is really important to know how much inventory you have and all of the numbers going with it. This is where we're going to get a lot of our reports today. We use the reports and the profit and loss sheets to tell us a lot of different things. In specific, for this video, we are going to be looking at the average order price, the average fees, the average profit per sale. And we're going to dive into those much more later, and I'm going to show you other things that I pull from Inventory Lab as well. Be Cool Repricer also has a ton of data. I have been really loving them. I switched to them back in February last year, and I really feel that I've only touched the tip of the iceberg of what kind of reports and features it has for me. I swear every time I sit down with it, I find some new little nugget that I absolutely love. They will show you the top selling items of a particular time frame, category, etc. So I love the data that Be Cool Repricer gives to me. The last thing you need to be familiar with is on your Amazon Seller Central, the reports and the business reports. This is kind of the general overview. I want to start with the general overview before we start diving in extensively into each one of these. So this slide is actually the last slide of the video, but I want to be very upfront with what we're doing here in this video. I hate making it through some sort of video that tells you how we're going to do things, and then they just give you generalizations and not really answer the question that you're after. So I want to be very upfront with this video. This is what we're going to end up at the end of this whole long video. I'm going to show you how to come up with each and every one of these numbers, how to calculate them based off of your sales data. So the idea is that you sit down at the end of this video and you are confident that you can open up a spreadsheet and find these numbers and then calculate out what you want your goals to be. And also how to, I don't want to say manipulate them, but if you change actions, how that will change these goals and make you a better business, make you have a better business at the end of the day, right? So don't get overwhelmed either. This is a lot of numbers and it may be a little confusing right now, but we're going to go through each and every one of them and show you how to do all of this. All right, we're going to back up a little bit, back up to the beginning here of QuickBooks. So this is the accounting software subscription that I have. This is what my CPA put me on. I think it was very similar to the other one that I was on before. I thought it was called QuickBooks Online Self-Employed, but it might have been called Business. All the QuickBooks software kind of sounds the same to me, so that's why I went and looked it up for this video, exactly what I am subscribed to, so you guys, if you are interested in that, you could see what I signed up for. Next up, for Inventory Lab, if you go to, let's see here, Accounting, FBA Sales, you're going to want to get very familiar with that one. And under Resources, Inventory Valuation, and your Profit and Loss Statements. That's going to be the three main ones for this video that you're going to be going through and looking at your numbers for. Not to say any of the other stuff is not exciting or interesting. I love looking at supplier, category, SKU, and ASIN profitability, but that is not where we're at for this video. I might do a separate video on that because these really help me with sourcing and direction of my company, but for figuring out how much we need to sell to make our goals, these are the three areas that we're going to be looking at. This slide here is a picture of what the profit and loss statement from Inventory Lab looks like, and then down below is a snippet from the FBA sales. Now what you need to do is go in the upper right hand corner, pick Advanced Search, and pick a range that you feel is a good average indicator of what your past sales have been. So this one was from, up on the top here, is from December of 2020. Absolutely not using that because it was all merchant fulfilled. So the numbers are going to be garbage for FBA sales. So for this report, I went ahead and advanced searched, did January to the end of November to get a good average of what my average order price, my profit per sale was going to be, and the cost of goods sold was going to be. Those are the three numbers that I need for this report. So again, you go to the P&L is off of the resources down at the bottom, profit and loss, and then the selling prices down there is you just go to accounting, FBA sales, fix it so that it's the time range that you want to look at to get a good idea of what your numbers are. If you started off, let's say, selling dollar store items and then you started selling higher end clothes items, you know, going forward, is your business going to look more like the dollar store items or more like the clothing items? So you want to pull whatever numbers are indicative of where your future sourcing is going to be. Or I just pulled the average of last year because it was pretty varied, and I'm going to have a pretty varied source of sourcing going forward into 2021, right? So I did not want to count December's FBM awesomeness because it's not indicative of what the rest of the year is going to look like. Oh my goodness. Let's see if we can talk today. Also, apologies for any interruptions. My family is all here, and quiet is not their middle name. The other report you're going to go pull is inventory valuation. You want to know what your inventory is at this time. You don't need it necessarily for these goals, but when you go to see if you're getting close to your goals, you're going to want to pull that report and see how much inventory you have. I took definitely a hit this Q4. My inventory valuation is way down. We had lots of sales, and now it's time to build those back up. One last thing that I just wanted to touch on with the Inventory Labs profit and loss statement is that I do not use the Inventory Labs profit and loss statement for pretty much anything in my business other than looking at the cost of goods sold and maybe sales price, because it's not a true look at my business as a whole. I do not enter in any of the overhead costs running a business into the software system, or my shipping supplies such as boxes and tape and Dymo labels and equipment and things. That is all entered into QuickBooks, and that's where I look at my profit and loss statement, is in my QuickBooks settings, because QuickBooks does capture all of those outside office expenses. So you may be looking at your inventory lab and going, wow, I've got a lot of great profit, and then you start adding on, you know, your fees for all the software you run and boxes and whatever other expenses you have in business, and your profit is not going to be as accurate because it wasn't reflecting those other expenses. So just be aware that you either need to go enter those expenses into your profit and loss in Inventory Lab or capture them in an accounting software outside of Inventory Lab. I threw in this slide of the Be Cool reports. You don't need your reports from your repricer, but I wanted to show you what the Be Cool repricer does look like. I do have an affiliate link for that down below if you wanted to sign up for this. I do think that a repricer is great for any Amazon business. I've been using repricers for several years now, and it was a huge increase in sales and awesomeness when I started up with a repricer. It was I mean, you could tell on the graph right when I started using a repricer, my sales jumped up significantly. The Be Cool report offers a lot of information that is similar to the Inventory Lab reports that I just showed you, in terms of total sales, units ordered, estimated profit, average sales per order. They also will give you information here, as you can see, on the buy box wins, things like that. So if you make adjustments to your repricer, you may want to look at that and see if your adjustments are getting you in the direction you want to go to, whether that was more sales or more profits. You know, those are things that's like a whole nother video. What I wanted to bring up here, though, is my estimated profits on Be Cool per item are calculating out to $8.63 on there. Inventory Lab has $3.71. So there's a huge difference on those numbers, and I'm not sure why there is such a difference. But I do know overall Inventory Lab has had more accurate numbers, and I am more new? No, that doesn't make sense. Be Cool is newer to me, and I don't know the ins and outs of it. So, find the more accurate number. I would go with Inventory Lab. I would rather overshoot my goal and make more money than to undershoot my goal and be scratching my head as to why. So for this video, we are going to be using the numbers pulled from Inventory Lab and from the Amazon business reports. But it's nice to know where all the other numbers are too. This next report is under your Amazon dashboard, reports, and then business reports. There's a lot of things on the left-hand side that you can then go look at, and you could really spend some time in this data. There's a lot there. But what I want to do, and I do it every year, is pull all of the year's sales, and I can break that down by month and see the total so that I can track my total year over year. So none of this is really used for the calculations done today. However, I do want to make sure that my average sales per order lines up with what Inventory Lab is reporting so that I make sure, everything is it should all be relatively the same. Like I said earlier, there could be some slight differences. But going forward into the next year, I need to know how I did last year so that I can set realistic goals for this next year. If you are just starting out and your first year of sales, you make $30,000 in sales, going through the next year, if you want to have it be $500,000 in sales, that's a huge jump. Most of us only jump about 30% year over year in terms of growth entrepreneur-wise, which is pretty realistic. So, when you're looking at your goals, if you want to have a super humongous goal, that's great. You better have a really good plan to do so. For the rest of us who are going to grow pretty organically over time and don't have, we're not winning the lottery or coming into a huge amount of capital anytime soon, let's set some realistic expectations. But to set those expectations, I want to know how I did last year. So last year, I went in and just put the custom date for last year. I did over 23,000 units ordered, and my product sales were just over 320,000. So next year, if I added 30% onto that, that would be a really good goal to shoot for a natural growth of my business. And I could also, think of how am I going to increase that? If I want to go from 23,000 products every month to, or 23,000 products in the year to 50,000 products in the year, how am I going to source that much? How am I going to process that much? So these give me good ideas of how I'm going to achieve my goals going in the future. So I go ahead and I pull this, and then I download it, and I put it into my tracker for the year, and I can then look at my sales from year over year to see if my growth is on track with what it should be as well. Here are my numbers from the spring of 2015 all the way up to 2020, and I like to look at these numbers and reflect on them and look at my own growth. You need to compare yourself to you. I cannot stress that enough. I have seen people post their sales that just started, in September and already have hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales. I'd love to know how they're doing it, but at the end of the day, I need to work with what I've been given and my situation. What you don't see behind all of these numbers is the struggle, the hurdles, the learning lessons, and the life events that have happened to me. I have had my house flooded. I had my father pass away last year. We've had numerous job changes. We've had school incidents. We've had a pandemic. So all of those things are going to influence how your business operates, right? And you need to look at your life and see what you have been doing. If you've been sitting and watching TV all day instead of packing up shipments, that's on you. That's you. A life event, though, give yourself some grace. If you got in a car accident or have a medical issue or a crisis of some sort, give yourself some breathing room, because life is going to throw those hard balls at you, and how you deal with them, you've got to figure that out for yourself. And if you need to take a break from business, or your business isn't performing as well because you have those life events, give yourself a little bit of grace. All right. Like I said, if you're sitting and eating bonbons, I got nothing for you. This game is not about. Nobody's going to sit there and prod you to go get stuff listed or go sourcing or whatnot. Okay, so I look at my sales from last year to this year, and I look at the increase, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So then I got to look at this year and see, what did I do that was really good? I had more wholesale accounts. I had more wholesale items. I brought on a packer so I could process more items. I really took advantage of Q4, which merchant fulfilling in December. That was a huge chunk of my sales too. I also did really good picking up on Easter sales during the coronavirus time. So there was opportunities that I capitalized on that were really good. And overall, being at home, I made things work. I still had hurdles. I mean, we all did. Stores were closed down. The shipping chains were disrupted. We had problems with getting merchant fulfilled items to the customers in December. So there's a lot behind these numbers, as you can see. From the 2017 to 2018, I did not have much growth. And the changes that I was doing during those years, obviously, I didn't want to continue those changes. What I did was not working and progressing me in the direction I wanted to go. Last year, I did the same thing. I looked at the progression from 2018 to 2019. I had, it was a little bit better, but it wasn't nearly as good as I had wanted it. I did make some mistakes. One of the mistakes I made at the end of 2019 was buying some wholesale pallets that were kind of more duds than studs. They didn't sell as fast as I wanted, wound up hurting my IPI, wound up with some more storage fees than I wanted, and tying up capital that was not really good. So learn from your mistakes and then improve what's working, right? Sounds so easy, but it is not as easy as it sounds. It is now after dinner. I did most of the filming for this back after lunch, and so now it's after dinner and I can get back to putting this video together for you guys. So the next slide I have here are probably two of my most favorite books that have influenced me on my goals and decision makings. The first is Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. He also runs a podcast that I do recommend called Mike Up in Your Business. He had an older podcast called Entrepreneurship Elevated, which was good. I don't know if you can go hear the older podcasts, but the old ones were pretty good, and the newer ones, I've been enjoying those this year as well. But Profit First will go through and show you how to manage your cash flow. And that's super important. There's a lot of numbers here, but at the end of the day, you want to be able to manage your cash flow so that you're going in a positive direction. And he breaks down a very simple way of when you get that Amazon paycheck, how much you should be putting towards taxes, how much you should be putting towards yourself, how much you should be putting towards the running of your business. And it's pretty good. Now, on top of this, there is also another one called Profit First for e-commerce business, and I actually recommend the e-commerce one more than the original by Mike Michalowicz. There was another author who published the one for e-commerce, and it's with his approval. He's on the title too, so if you just type in Profit First for e-commerce, you'll find that one. Both are really good. I love getting book recommendations and going to my library with now that we're on lockdown and our libraries aren't open, a lot of them are in ebook form, and so I could just borrow these types of books from the library, and if they are really influential, then I will wind up buying them to put on my shelf to reference later. And Profit First is one of those that I did buy both the original and the e-commerce specific one and have on my shelf so that I can go back and refresh my memory or refresh the courses and take a look at it. The other book that was very good to read was The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. It's another highly recommended book. I'm just showing you my two favorite books here. There's a ton of books out there that are just amazing to read and will help you steer towards your goals and writing your goals, obtaining your goals, etc. The 10X Rule simply states that whatever your goal is, you should multiply your actions by 10 times to achieve those goals so that you don't have any shortcomings. Because a lot of times what happens is you say, okay, I want to make $1,000 a week, right? And then you have life happen. You have all those hurdles we just talked about happen, and then you fall short of your goal. But if you say, okay, my goal is $1,000 and I'm going to do 10 times the amount of work to get that, you're going to overshoot your goal. So when you do have setbacks, you still obtain your goal. And that's it in a nutshell. He writes it so much better than what I can explain. But I wanted to bring those two books up if you are interested in further knowledge or some reading to do. All of the reports that we're looking at, I'm trying to make it as simple as I can, but Amazon in general has a ton of data. And that can be really great, but it can also be really overwhelming. So if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed, that's okay. That's normal. I felt completely overwhelmed when I first started with all of the different reports that you could pull, and which ones should you be pulling, how should you be pulling them, and then how do you interpret that to get to the goals that you want to get to. At a normal job you would have at a company, they would already have that mapped out, and they would say, okay, you pull the sales data from this date to this date, and we're going to track it this way or that way, and they have all of that mapped out. You're going to have to map it out for your company and just know how to pull what data you want to pull, and then you're going to have to learn how to interpret that data as well. So don't feel bad if you are overwhelmed. We're working through this together, and that's why I wanted to make this video, because I was too overwhelmed when I first started out on what and where to look for things. All of your goals that you have for your company and for your personal life, I really suggest using the SMART goal approach, which is having specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely goals. If you've never heard about this, there are a ton of videos, blogs, books about SMART goals, how to do them. There's even free templates out on the internet if you want a template to write things out with that can walk you through this. And it gets easier. After you do this for a little while, it becomes very much intuitive, and you're able to write up a SMART goal much faster than when you are just starting out doing this. So I highly recommend getting familiar with this, because it will help you stay on track, and having your goals written out and in a place near your office. Like, I usually post them on my wall right next to the computer here, so I can see what I'm supposed to be working on or what my goals are, to frequently remind myself about them. And the thing I like about the SMART goals is it really makes you be very specific with what you're going to do to achieve your goal. So this next year going forward, I want to have more revenue and thus more profits. So to get that revenue and the profits, there's a lot of different things you can do. So I will come up with what my target is, and then I let that marinate a little bit, and then I will write out specifically what I'm going to do to achieve that goal. I wrote out a bunch of sample goals that are relevant to increasing your revenue or profit for Amazon FBA. We're going to be focused on this video on the very bottom one there that's underlined, more sales and orders per month, but that's kind of like the beginning of my SMART goal. I'm going to go through this exercise, and I want to see, with my past performance that I did last year, how many items do I need to sell on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to hit my revenue and my profit that I want to do. Then I need to figure out how I'm going to go about getting that profit with those numbers. And there's a lot of different things that can influence that. Obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is, to make more money, you got to sell more things, right? But no, that's not the end-all be-all. If you want to make more money, there's a lot of different things that can influence that, such as changing your average selling price, changing your profit margins when you're outsourcing. If you go for higher dollar items or higher profits per item, that's going to definitely change how many items you need to send in to make the same amount of revenue or profit as you were before. There's different ways to branch out to other platforms or find complementary platforms, such as the NARF program that opened up with Amazon FBA to sell your items in Mexico and Canada. I started that up, I believe it was October when I was able to get into it, and I have definitely been liking that. I have done no extra work, and I have more customers. I have more eyes on my product. So it was a way to expand sales without doing anything. Other ideas that you can branch out and help expand your business would be employees, VAs, prep centers, different softwares, equipment, supplies, wholesale accounts, changing how you do advertising, driving more traffic to the items you sell with blogs or PPC advertising, etc. If you are just starting out, one of your goals might be just to have better feedback or more feedback or reviews for your product, or to get ungated in different things so you have more brands available to you while you're outsourcing. All of these things are sample goals that can help you with your overall revenue and profit goals. So today we're going to go through and we're going to figure out, for me, with the average selling price that I've been doing for this last year and the profit margins, what do I need to do? What do I need to sell per month? Then I need to kind of let that marinate for a minute. I will put it up on my wall here and I will say, okay, if I want to send in X amount of products per month, how am I going to do that? Like, it sounds easy. Just sell millions of things per month, right? No. How am I going to get those things? Can I do online arbitrage? Would hiring a VA help out? Where's my time currently spent now? And what do I need to change that to so that I can accomplish those goals? And that's where those SMART goals come in. So what I'll do is I'll come up with that target number, and then I'll come up with a couple of things that I can change or get better at, improve, that will help me obtain those goals. For instance, one of the things that has helped me out in the last few months is bringing on a packer, and that has tied my time up, or freed my time up, so that I can then go find more items. So while I'm sitting here researching and finding a new wholesale item or signing up for a new wholesale account, my packer gal is sitting there putting things in the bag, something that I can pay her to do, and then I can do something that she can't do. And it has really jumped up my business and worked for me over the last couple of months. But there's a lot of other things out there that do similar, such as the prep centers or having a VA. And there's other, like I said, there's a bunch of different ways that you can influence your numbers to do better. When I first started working for myself, my biggest hurdle was time management and being efficient with my time. I was kind of jumping all over the place. I would start one thing and I would move on to another, move on to another, move on to another. And then I came across block time, and it really brought some organization to my schedule and has made me more efficient. So I've broken down my time into kind of these 4 activities or zones or whatever you want to call them for the office, and I have them as money generating activities, back-end office activities, customer activities, business building activities. And you can call them activities or blocks or whatever you want, but in essence, I group them together and focus on those types of things during specific times in my schedule. The other thing that I did and was recommended to me is to figure out when your strengths and your weaknesses are. I am much more efficient at packing and shipping items in the morning than I am in the afternoon, and I am much better at answering emails and going through tedious online things such as my repricer in the afternoon after lunch than I am in the morning. So do the activities that you're better at during the times that you're better at doing them. So when I'm looking at my time and what I'm doing during the week, obviously I want to spend most of my time on money generating activities and not get bogged down in some of the other things. While it's great to respond to customers and work on feedback, etc., those aren't money generating activities. So you want to make sure that you're not spending too much time on those types of things and you're being efficient with them and spending more time on the areas that you want to with your business that are going to get you to your goals. You also want to make sure you're carving out activities that are going to improve your business or build on your business, and that is so important. If you ever get feeling like you're you're working in your business and not on your business, you need to change things up. And I've been there before and gone, geez, I haven't done anything for my business to build it, and I've had to carve out some time for that. So make sure you're doing a little bit of these activities and they're ratioed in a way that you are achieving your goals. Alright, like I said at the beginning of this, I'm going to show you 3 different ways of calculating profits and goals and revenue that are from 3 different perspectives. And I like all 3. But, you know, what works for one person may not work for another person, so I wanted to give you kind of a few different ideas for calculating that goal of yours. The first one, well, let's see here. All 3 are going to use either an Excel sheet or a Google spreadsheet. I myself have changed over to Google Spreadsheets so that it's mobile and I can do it whenever I have to travel and not keep track of the files. It's all on my Google Drive. Makes it sharing easy, etc. So the first one is from Seller Spaceship. He is a YouTuber but also has a website, and I came across his, maybe in the last couple of months, and really liked his video, liked his take on things, and he offers the spreadsheet download for free. So that is one avenue you can go. Sean and Tiffany are personal friends of mine. I interviewed Sean on my channel a few months back and he walked through the spreadsheet. So I'm going to link both Seller Spaceship down below, Sean's interview down below, and we're going to gloss over those 2 ways. I don't want to go into depth because I've already done videos on them. And then I'm going to go through my way. And my way I've been using for a while, and I want to show you kind of the updated version because, you know, I go through and I go copy and paste from last year, and then I will tweak or modify, or maybe there's some new information that I want to add into that, and I'll go through what I've done for this year. Here is what Seller Spaceships looks like, and it's zoomed in a little bit on the top, but I liked how you could go through and you input your daily sales. It will tell you what your daily buy should be. You can calculate the estimated profit, etc. So he walks through how to use this template, and again, you can download it from him. I really liked it. I downloaded it myself and played around with it a little bit, so it's pretty good. I really liked it. Sean and Tiffany's spreadsheet is probably the best profit first-esque type of spreadsheet. You enter in what Amazon pays you, and then it's going to tell you how much you should be holding for taxes, how much you should spend, what your paycheck's going to be, and what other expenses are. Then based on how you want your company to be growing or not growing, whether you want to maintain your inventory level, if you want to do a commission-based pay, or if you want to do max payment, how you should allocate your funds. So this is what the commission percent pay looks like, and then for max payment on what you're going to get, there you go. You can see here that they're only reinvesting the same amount of cost of goods that they spent or that they've sold, and the rest is going towards their paycheck. So I really liked the setup, and if you want to watch that video and see cell by cell how the equations worked, etc., and walk through of this type of setup, feel free to watch that video. I really liked it, and I thought it was very good for somebody who is starting off, who doesn't have QuickBooks maybe, or doesn't have an accounting type of software or CPA to go through things with them. And honestly, I did my setup similarly to theirs for a number of years before meeting them and seeing their sheets as well. So really liked how they did things. Now we're going to get into how I do my numbers, and if you're following along, you're going to need to go pull the following numbers so that you can put them into your spreadsheet and do this along with us. So first thing, from Inventory Lab, go pull your inventory valuation report. How much inventory do you have there, and what is it worth? So it's very simple. You go to Inventory Lab, pull the inventory valuation report, and it's going to say you have X amount of inventory for merchant fulfilled, you have X amount on the way to Amazon, and you have X amount in Amazon, and then it's going to tell you a total valuation. You want to know that total valuation. We'll get into that in the next slide. From the dashboard, so click on the dashboard, select a time frame, export it, and then calculate the average cost of goods for your items. You want to pull a time frame for both this and the next step, that's indicative of what you're going to be going after in the future. So let's say last year I sourced dollar store items the beginning of the year and then clothing the rest of the year, and next year I'm only going to go after clothing. Then I want to pull numbers from the times where I was selling clothing and pulling clothing to get an idea of what my future calculations should be. So for me, this last year, I did all sorts of stuff between January and December. January and the beginning of December, and then I did merchant fulfilled for December toys. I don't really want to pull my merchant fulfilled December toy numbers because that's not indicative of what the rest of the year looks like for me. So I pulled my January through November numbers for what we're doing today and left out the toys. It was amazing. It was amazing Q4, but it's not going to happen in February and March the same way it did in December, right? Okay, so calculate your average cost of goods you want to use, and then the same thing for FBA sales. Do an advanced search and pick whatever time frame is good that you think is going to be indicative of the future, and get the average order price, average fees, and average profits per sale. The most important one here is the average profits per sale. That's what we're going to be using to calculate things, but the others are good to know as well. Next, you are going to need to know your numbers for how much you need to. This is when you need to think, how much money do you need to run your business, how much money you want to put in your own pocket, what do you want to reinvest into your company, and any other goals you have. I think I have on this one a credit card that I want to put $1,000 towards, but that could easily change into a car payment or a warehouse payment or anything extra that you want to have on here. But basically, anything you want to make out of your business, put it in this section, and this is where the 10x rule of overestimating significantly would be great, because you don't want to underestimate and not be able to pay your bills or have to dip into your own pocket or not pay yourself or not reinvest into your company. Okay, last from Amazon, we're going to calculate the percentage of total sales that Amazon takes so you can see what your sales goals should be. A lot of times people ask you that. I mean, that's like the number one question. Great, you made $300,000 in sales, but what did you actually take home? I mean, Amazon takes a good chunk of that, right? So, knowing how much Amazon takes of your sales will be good to see if your sales are on track with your goals. So we need to understand a little bit of background with some of these numbers on how much we'll sell in a day. And this is where you need to know your inventory valuation and how much Amazon is going to take and what that's going to leave you at the end of the day with your paycheck. So inventory valuation, basically industry standard is you're going to sell 2% of your valuation on a daily basis. And this means if you have $30,000 of inventory, you should be selling about $600 a day. That's industry standard for Amazon. I give Jessica Hill from Ladies of FBA E-commerce Empowerment credit for this, and she has an entire video explaining all about this. So you can go look that up. If I can think about it, I will try and link it down below, because she did a pretty good job of that. And she goes through and looks to see if she's selling 2% or better and how that is on a quarterly basis with her business. Now, if you are selling more, awesome, that's great. If you are selling less, you may want to think about your sourcing habits and why your stuff is not selling as well as industry standard. But this will give you an idea, and most people are in about that 2% range. So if you want to be selling more than $600 a day, you really need to have more than $30,000 worth of value of inventory in the Amazon warehouse. It'd be nice to think that every time we send something in, it immediately sells, but that's not the case. That's not reality. So understanding your inventory valuation is going to help you understand, if you want to make X amount of money, how much inventory you need to have in Amazon to even have that be realistic. We go back to those SMART goals, and is it obtainable? If you have $10,000 of inventory in Amazon, you're not going to be making $600 a day in sales. That's not realistic. So you need to understand that. So the next thing you need to understand is Amazon takes a good chunk of your money. They don't take it for nothing. They handle all of your customer service, storage, and shipping, etc. But they do take a good chunk of your money. For this example, for last year, from the numbers I pulled, Amazon takes 45% of my sales, which means that for $600 in sales, I'm going to take 55% of that into my Amazon balance, or $330. So out of that $600 of sales in the day, $330 roughly should be added to my Amazon balance. Now, out of that $330, you got to understand that that's not all profit. That's just your take home. That includes your cost of goods, your overhead, your office, your shipping supplies. Everything else needs to be pulled out of that $330 takeaway. So you got to factor in all those other expenses outside of Amazon. So one of the first things we're going to do here is go calculate your Amazon ratio so you can see how much Amazon is taking from you, and that will help you understand when you have X amount of sales how much you're going to see coming home. Now, I believe I calculated it out to 45%, 55%. I've done this numerous times. It's usually around that amount. Sometimes it's a little bit higher, sometimes it's a little bit lower, but understanding Amazon fees when you're outsourcing will impact how you look at things. So, things to know. Heavier, larger items are going to have more fees. There's long-term storage fees that can add up, so if you're thinking about going in deep in something, you want to keep that in mind. Q4 will have higher fees than non-Q4, so that's another thing to keep in mind. Items under $10 are going to have a higher fee ratio to sale price than items over $10 in a general sense here. So what can you do to offset that? One thing that I look at is bundles. One pack of crackers is going to have a higher fee ratio than a pack of 3. So look for that when you're looking at beauty items, when you're looking at grocery items. When you are outsourcing, it's good to have an ROI threshold, but also a minimum profit threshold. There was a great thread on Facebook about this the other day, talking about, do you look at ROI or do you look at a minimum profit? Look at both, because if something is selling for a good ROI, but it's only making $1, would you want to spend your time on that, or something that you are buying for $10 and you're only making $5 profit on it? So keep those in mind. Different categories are going to have different type of business models. So if you are selling dollar store items or low profit types of items, you need to have a high velocity on those items. You need to sell many, many of them. But if you're selling Nike shoes, you're going to have higher profits per item, but maybe have a lower velocity, and you might have more returns. So think of the business model you want. I always suggest going wide, not deep, when you're outsourcing. And a good variety of seasonal and evergreen products are going to help you make consistent sales over the months and not have those highs and lows. But even with a good variety of products, the economy is still going to ebb and flow, and you're going to have to roll with some of the punches. My lowest sale months are usually February through June, but I haven't in the past capitalized on things like Easter, Mother's Day, or spring type of items. So that's something that I can improve on myself. If you are, we'll just take this last crazy year. I know a lot of people usually did a lot of Halloween items, and Halloween got canceled, and I know that some people wound up a little deeper than what they would have liked with their Halloween items. So anyhow, this is all going to gear you towards sourcing and help you out with sourcing there, understanding where those fees are coming from and how to stack those in your favor. So how do we calculate what Amazon's taking? You're going to go to your Amazon Seller Central, and you're going to click on this total balance, and then you're going to click on this number right here. So 377. You could also calculate it out for the other platforms. which might be something good to do. It's been a couple of months since I've enrolled in the program, and I'm curious if the fee ratio is higher for Canada or Mexico or not. So that's something I'll do on a day when I have nothing else going on, which I've got so much going on, I don't know if I'll get to that. But it would be interesting to see both Canada and Mexico to see if the fee ratio is on par or, higher or lower for those sales. Another thing that I was just going to mention, because it's up on here, that I have 172 ASINs stranded. I pulled this data a couple days ago, right after my paycheck, my balance cleared out, and these all got straightened out. So you'll notice that if you get things sent to the warehouse, a lot of times they wind up in stranded inventory for like a day or two. Don't freak out. I don't know why it's been doing that lately, but it's a known little bug, or I don't know, system failure or whatever. It's Amazon being Amazon. They do all sorts of anomalies. That's why it's important to look at those Facebook boards, because if you're freaking out about it, chances are a bunch of other people are freaking out about it too, and just see what everybody else is saying about it. Okay, so you're going to go to balance, you're going to click on this total balance right there, and you're going to get a sheet like this. You're going to go to all statements right here. So standard orders, I don't do invoiced orders, that's for like business stuff. Do all statements, and then you get your paycheck displayed down here. So it's going to have a beginning balance, the beginning balance should be 0, total product charges, rebates, Amazon fees, whatever. So you're going to highlight from the little January, highlight down, copy and paste it into just a spreadsheet, whatever. I called mine 2021 goals, just opened up a new spreadsheet, dump it into here, paste it. Then you're going to do a little calculation. You're going to go total deposit, G, divided by product charges, and get a % of what you're getting, and then see what Amazon is taking. And then all I did was I averaged them out over here. So on average for last year minus December, why did I did a bad typo there? FBA time till December, yeah. So I just made a little note. I like to make myself little notes because I will do all this work and then I may not revisit this for a couple of months and I need to remember what I did. So anyhow, back to this sidetrack. I did the average amount of my take home and the average of Amazon. So you can see here, sometimes I'm taking 56%, 51, 52, but the average is 40, we'll say 54%, and Amazon's taking 45%. Here is my spreadsheet with the other tab that has my goals on it. I don't have anything fancied up. I just wrote at the top there that I have an FBA goal of I want to pay myself $1,000 per week in profits. And I have my 2 blurps about industry standard. Sell-through is 2% of total inventory value, and the calculated Amazon, what Amazon takes in terms of fees. And then I popped those 2 percentages into cells down below here so that I could have them into other equations. Again, this is not fancy. Maybe I should have fancied it up for y'all, but I don't typically fancy my spreadsheets up very well. I don't know, not my style. Okay, from Inventory Lab, these are my numbers that I pulled: the average order price, fees, and profit for sale. And then if I wanted to make $1,000 per week divided by the average profit for sale, how many items I would need to sell. So 270 in a week, 39 per day. However, this is where I went wrong in years previous, is I didn't calculate out enough to sustain my business and run the business and pay off the credit card and get my new stuff and build and anything. So for this year, what I want to do is go through and kind of beef it up a lot. So I went through and I added $2,000 more to go into cost of goods for new stuff. So I'm building $1,000 of profit for myself, $1,000 to run the business because I now have an employee. I have a lot more overhead. That number is really lower, but for purposes of this spreadsheet, I just went ahead and put 1,000. It totals up to $5,000. If I can make $5,000 in 1 week, to reinvest and divvy up for my business and pay myself, etc. I felt like that was a good target goal. Anyhow, this is the number dump. We're going to move on to the next slide. Here are the numbers I pulled from that Inventory Lab dashboard report. Again, I pulled last year's numbers. I think I did the total, so it does have December in it, yeah, because my total sales was $324,000, so that was my total sales. So all I did was cost of goods, $119,000 in goods divided by the total items sold, 23,674, and got the average cost of good was $5.05. Now, again, this is a number that it is what it is. And there are some if, ands, or buts to behind those numbers. You always have items that unfortunately don't get sold, or have a price tank, or you just need to clearance out, or are rolled over from the year before. So, you just got to have a starting point. So is this the most accurate number in the world? No. But is it a good place to start with? Sure. Maybe you could go through and do the average cost of goods as you're doing your shipments and pull from there for a more accurate number. So if you go through your last, I don't know, however many shipments you want, it will tell you the total amount of items and then the total you spent, and you could do a cost of goods that way. You could also go through your receipts and tally up, if you bought 80 things and it cost you 300, what your cost of goods there is too. But my point is you need to find an average cost of goods somehow, some way, find the most accurate number that you can for this. And again, this is forecasting. So if you come up with one that is better or worse, you may want to use the worse one so that you are overestimating how much money to bring in versus underestimating. All right, I don't think there was anything else I was going to say about this. This again is just another tab of my whole goals for this year. I just created a new file called goals of 2021 goals, and plopped this report down into its tab there. The next and last slide is now putting it all together. I really thought that screen was going to be the last cell, but as I was trying to film my walkthrough of how I got these numbers, I felt it would be easier if I just doctored up my spreadsheet and added in the formulas over here. So I just put the period, and then you can see what I have calculated if you want to follow along with that. So for my calculated goals, the sum of 5,000 is from earlier, where I took how much profit I want, how much cost of goods, and all of that stuff, how much I want to bring home in a week. I wanted to put both 1 week and 2 weeks in here because the Amazon paycheck runs on a 2-week cycle. The next thing that I want to look at on the sheet is my sales needed on a weekly basis, but also a monthly basis and a daily basis. So what I did for that was I took my $5,000 that I wanted to get, and I divided it by 54% to get a total of $9,259. That means Amazon's going to take about $4,166 and leave me with $5,000 to go and run my business. So this is kind of important because we all look at the Amazon Seller app. We all do. We all look at our sales for the day to see if our sales are good or bad or in between, and it gives me an idea if my daily sales are starting to line up with my goals, or if they're not. If they're not, then you need to change some things, but it gives me an idea of where my sales need to be. The next big thing that's going to come into play is that inventory valuation. So I hope things are starting to come together and the whole picture is starting to be painted. I know this was a long video. I have filmed it over on and off the entire day, so I hope it is all fluid. I put a lot of work into all of these slides. But the inventory valuation, this is crucial. You cannot sell $1,000 worth of stuff a day without having a good chunk of inventory in the warehouse. So if you typically sell 2% of your inventory and you want to make $1,300 a day in sales, you need to have $66,000 worth of inventory there. Well, how are you going to get $66,000 worth of inventory into the warehouse? You can build slowly, you can build fastly, you can source cheap items. There are a lot of people that go out and get free books from their friends and neighbors in the neighborhood and get inventory that way, all the way up to loans and financial partners, etc. And so it's up to you on how you want to do that. But you cannot just poof magically get $66,000 worth of inventory in the Amazon warehouse. It's going to take a lot of time, effort, and capital to get there. And so that's a whole topic we could spend on another day, but it's good to know what that inventory evaluation needs to be. It goes back to those SMART goals. Is it obtainable? If you only have $5,000 worth of inventory in the Amazon warehouse, you're not going to get $1,000 of sales per day. That's not going to happen. So you need to have some realistic things to look at here. The next thing here that we calculated is the items sold per day and the items sold per week. And this is huge. This tells me how many items I ought to be sending in if I want to be selling that many. Obviously, if you're building up your business, you want to beef these numbers up. If you're going on vacation, you want to plan for that. But basically, I took B25, which is my $5,000 a week, and divided it by the average profit per item. So now, remember how we looked a little while ago? And Inventory Lab said that I averaged $3.71 of profit per item, but Be Cool was like $8 and something average per item. This is where I want to use the lower number because I believe, one, it's more accurate, and two, I would rather underestimate than overestimate. So if I want to make $5,000 a week, I want to be selling 1,348 items per week and sending in roughly, we'll just say 200 items per day. Now I divided that by 7. If you're only going to have a 5-day work week, you want to divide it by 5. If you only ship in twice a week or once a month or whatnot, you want to divide appropriately. But seeing that 200 items per day gives me an idea of what I need to send in. Today we shipped out 340 items, and that was about 1 day's worth of work, so it is doable. These were really easy items to ship out, but they were also kind of on the lower profit per item. So, think about your inventory, and these will definitely help you steer you towards your goal. Keep in mind, though, this is just to maintain status quo, too. If you want to build up your business and get to that $66,000 worth of inventory you need to ship in more than this. So keep that in mind, too. You're going to want to tweak these numbers. So I come up with these numbers for myself, and then I'll say, okay, my bare minimum is, we'll say $200 items per day, and I want to grow, so I'm going to add another 50 items on there. And if I only work 5 days a week, what do I need to push out for 2 shipments to Amazon every week? And you can do the math there. I also added on here how many items per month you need to do. So that kind of gives you a monthly overview, so you could plan your month out as well. Alright, last section we're going to get into is the average cost of goods and how much you need to spend to get those. So here is, again, another thing you got to take with a grain of salt. Pretty much everything I'm showing you how I set it up and what my reasoning is behind it, and you need to look at your business and see what you're doing and tweak accordingly. That's why I like to go into depth on how I'm getting my numbers and why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it, so that you can see how I'm doing it and say, oh yes, I do it the way she does it. I'm going to copy this aspect of how she's doing it, or no, I do this, so I'm going to change it here. I like to show you the hows and whys and stuff because it is such a complex business based on how you source and where you get your items, and etc. So the average cost of good, I pulled my last year's numbers, and it turns out I spent about $5 an item. That's what I did. So this next year going forward, if I source the same way, I can expect to spend about $5 an item, which is fine. It gives me a number, it gives me a base. If you plan on just doing free books, you're going to change accordingly. If you plan on sourcing Nike shoes, you need to change accordingly. So, going forward for this year, if I use that $5 an item and I do the calculation of, what do I have here? B34 times B32. So I have the items per day, 193, times $5.05. I get $972. This gives me my spending goal per day, per week, per month. A lot of entrepreneurs in the Amazon FBA business do their goals based off their spending goals, so that when they wake up and they go sourcing online or they're making wholesale orders, they know how much they need to spend to make the numbers that they want to make. And so that's kind of what I wanted to figure out for my business this year, and really get a hard line in the sand of something to shoot for and work my way up to. Now, $972 spending per day, it's a little much for me, but it's something that I feel like during the year I could work myself up to doing. When I'm also looking at this, it gives me an idea of what kind of habits I need to get into, the volume I need to get into. Spending $972 a day, if I was just outsourcing at, let's just say Burlington, one of my favorite stores, I would need to be going to a lot of Burlingtons. So we get back to that SMART goal of, is that realistic and obtainable? Boy, I could maybe do it for like a week, but I don't think I could source Burlington 7 days a week and spend $1,000 every day at Burlington. They just don't have the volume there. So I need to look at other ways to obtain that volume to get to my goals. And keeping in mind the cost of good, the average profits that I want to get to, etc. What was it? There was one other thing I was going to say about that. When I am looking at those spending type of goals, this is where a lot of those other things can really help out, such as cashback reward programs, gift cards with percentages off. I typically use my Southwest Rewards card so that I can travel whenever I need to. Not that it's done me a lot of good this year, but someday I'll get back to traveling. But also, Ratukin I've been using a lot for my OA orders, where you get 3%, 2% cash back for your online orders. So if you are getting up to spending this amount of money, those types of programs can really help out. If you're spending $1,000 a day and you're getting 3% back, that will add up at the end of the month. So these goals, all in all, I'm really happy I went through and hammered them out this year, and it gives me a lot of good numbers looking forward in the future. My next step is to print this out and I post it somewhere very visible and kind of mull it over for the next few days, and I start thinking of what would be the best way to obtain these goals, taking into account my lifestyle, my family, my capital that I have, and my experience, and start looking for any glaring holes in any of my numbers that I did. I hope I haven't made any mistakes. If you see any mistakes, not the spelling ones, I know about the spelling ones, I'm a terrible speller, but any of the mathematical, the important stuff, please comment down below so that I can get that updated for myself. And so once I make sure that my numbers are all pretty solid where I want my goals to be, and the main ones are highlighted in bold here, I will then think about how can I accomplish those goals. Then I will start jotting down my SMART goals for those that will lead me up to nailing the spending goal, the sales per day I need, and the amount of items I need to sell per day. So one of the things I can tell you right now is I've partnered up with my friend Tina, whom I absolutely adore, and her and I are teaming up together to come up with bundle ideas and wholesale ideas and replen ideas that we find so that we can help each other out. And we've come up with very specific parameters of what we're looking for and how we're going to do that and what we want it to bring to the table. In the past, like I said, this last year, I brought on an employee to help me pack. That was huge. She can pack things so fast. So she mowed through 340 small items in 4 hours yesterday. I mean, just tag and bag, tag and bag. Today she was working on another set, so we will probably be sending in another, I don't know, 100 to 200 items tomorrow. And that has been amazing for my business. I have also been looking at the third-party packing centers, those centers that you can send your Amazon stuff to, and they will just charge you a base price and then send your stuff off to the warehouse. That's another way that you can scale up without getting into your own warehouse. So that is an option as well. Also, obtaining the inventory. We had ASD that got canceled this spring. I was so sad. I was so looking forward to going to that in March, but they have things online. So finding different wholesalers online, and then of course finding good products to sell and sell at the velocity that I want to go with. Other goals that I'm looking at with my business are, of course, ones surrounding my YouTube channel. I have a lot of video ideas that I'm going to be working on in the upcoming months, doing some more detailed videos on things like IP claims or feedback removal, etc. And then I have goals for my t-shirt business and personal goals that I'm going to be working on too. So January is filled with goals, and it's fun and exciting, but it does take kind of a mental toll. So I pretty much just dedicate January and June to look at goals and then reevaluate the goals in June, see if they're working or not. Last June was not so good. We were in the middle of the pandemic, so I pretty much just threw my goals out the window because it was survival of the fittest. But hopefully this year will be a little bit better. I typically get all of them written out and hammered out in January, and then hunker down, get some work done, and then look at them again in June and see it. Did they work out? Did they not work out? What worked? What didn't work? Maybe a better way to take that, and then modify and adapt and change. So that's what I'll be doing. Going to print this out. Definitely think on it over the weekend. See how I can obtain the numbers that I want to obtain with expansion and improvement. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a long one, very long one. Did I do? No. This is without the calculations. There we go. So I hope you guys enjoyed this very long video on how I'm doing my goals and some of the in-depth analysis on how to pull those numbers, etc. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If this helped you out, again, leave me a thumbs up. It helps me out as well. And if you have any recommendations or comments or questions, you can leave those down below. If you don't feel comfortable leaving comments down below, I know I don't. I'm so terrible. I don't comment nearly as much as I could on either Facebook posts or other people's YouTube videos. You can go ahead and email me. I'm resellingmom@gmail.com. I believe the link is down below as well. And tomorrow I plan on getting all this video spliced up so I can get it out this weekend, and hopefully get all those videos linked that I've talked about down below too. So if I've missed any, gotta let me know too, because it's been a long week. It's been a really crazy week, this first week of January. I was hoping for a little more mellow of a beginning of the year. I hope that's not indicative of how 2021 is going to go. But there we go. Take care, guys, and have an amazing